Gossip Girl's Blair Waldorf is an iconic queen of mean and the Upper East Side.
I'm the best of the best. I'm Blair Waldorf.
In her quest for power and control, she definitely made a lot of mistakes. But she actually got a lot more right than she gets credit for, both in her understanding of how her world really works and in the way she had to learn to grow as a person. So let's take a look back at Blair's outlook on life and relationships, how she changed or didn't, and the most important lessons she can teach us.
Haven't you heard? I'm the crazy bitch around here.
Blair Waldorf isn't content with just being powerful. She wants to be on top at all times. Growing up in Serena's shadow and under the thumb of her judgmental mother, Blair came to have a very shrewd understanding of what her world rewards. She understands that, no matter how hard she tries, she'll never be an effortless it girl like Serena, beguiling people with her shiny hair and mysterious need to always be somewhere else.
Actually, there's somewhere I have to go.
And so she instead set her sights on gaining power through the things she can stake out influence in, like grades and fashion.
For those last season's Toy Bush flats.
I got them on sale?
With the help of her minions, who she keeps on a tight leash, she always knows what's going on and is able to find ways to flip situations to her advantage. And she's not afraid to be very ruthless in pursuit of her goals.
You can't make people love you, but you can make them fear you.
She's able to take a step back and look at the larger picture to pull together a deeper understanding of the predicaments that befall her to make sure that in the end, she wins no matter what.
Leave it to Blair Waldorf to know that bitches don't just happen, they're made. By parents even more wicked than their offspring.
She also struggles to rule over her romantic relationships, first trying to force herself and Nate to be the ultimate high school power couple, no matter how unhappy they both were, then going on to get stuck in a never-ending back and forth with Chuck.
This means war, Blair.
Chuck.
Me versus you. No limits.
Of course, her biggest battle for power is with frenemy Serena. We first meet the pair after Serena has disappeared for an entire school year, and Blair took the spot of Queen Bee in the resulting power vacuum. Upon Serena's return, Blair is clearly aware that her time on top is under threat, and so works harder and harder to try to hold her ground.
I get it. I don't want to take any of that away from you.
Because it's just yours to take if you want it.
No, that's not what I mean.
But in this battle, we can also get our first insight into what really drives Blair, her deep sadness and insecurity. Sure, she's mad at Serena for coming back and stealing the spotlight yet again, but she's really upset at the fact that her best friend disappeared without a trace for a whole year without even letting her know what was up.
Do you know how it felt calling your house when you didn't show up at school and having your mom say, Serena didn't tell you that she moved to Connecticut?
And over the course of the show, we continually see how Blair has a hard time coming to terms with how hard she has to work to feel like she has control over her life, while it seems like everything comes so easily to Serena.
How do you manage to get out of everything unscathed?
Because I'm nice. You should try it sometime.
Because she doesn't have the easy influence of Serena, she instead feels the need to rule with an iron fist.
You need to be cold to be queen. Anne Boleyn thought only with her heart and she got her head chopped off.
While she's technically not wrong about this being an effective means to garner power over the others around her, it also means that her rule is very tenuous. Everyone's always looking for any reason to knock her down a peg.
Your being a bitch is what got dairy in your hair in the first place. Okay, be nice and neutral, and things will swing back to normal. You're the queen bee, so just let nature take its course.
And even she often feels crushed under the weight of her own persona, even if she tries to deny it. But Blair's struggle for power with Serena is so particularly interesting because it's also one of the biggest parts of her life where she is at times able to truly let go and accept not being number one. No matter how much they fought and schemed against one another, at the end of the day, they had a deeper connection that was more important than silly social power. And even Blair learned to put her need for dominance aside and focus on being a friend. And this is all part of one of the most important lessons Blair learns over the course of her story. Even though Blair was incredibly rich and at the top of the social strata of the Upper East Side, she constantly felt like her life was slipping out of her control. So much of her life had been plotted out and molded by other people who did not have her best interest at heart.
My mother just decides everything, you know? Everything in the world is just totally up to her.
And so, in every aspect of her life that she could, she sought out any way to at least feel like she had control over her situation and the things that were happening to her. This played out in a number of self-destructive ways, including her disordered eating, which was born out of her mother's quiet cruelty.
You will never be more beautiful or thin or happy than you are right now.
Guess I have time to change.
And put some product in your hair, the ends are dry.
And because food was one of the few things that she felt she could always control. In addition to her mother's treatment, Blair feeling abandoned by her father led to her feeling completely unmoored.
My father left my mother for a 31-year-old model. I feel like screaming because I don't have anyone to talk to.
This made her take an even tighter grip on everyone who was still in her life, but usually led to her trying to control them in an effort to make sure that they could never leave her.
I just wanted to do something nice. Is that so hard to believe?
Yeah, pretty much.
Over time, Blair honed her need for control into a finely tuned weapon.
You're Blair Waldorf. Punishment is your middle name.
But the real thing she eventually got right was learning when to use this power and when to relinquish control. Her ability to scheme and run into battle against anyone certainly helped her and her friends get out of several sticky situations. But the fact that it was a compulsion for her meant that it also caused her a lot of grief. And so over time, she came to better understand that even she, Queen Bee Blair, can't control every single thing in the entire world. And that's okay.
Here's my advice. Have a little faith, and if that doesn't work, a lot of mimosas.
And it's through this growth that she's able to begin finding real moments of happiness and connection with those around her. It can be so hard to feel like you have control over things in your life, from your relationships to your career and everything else. But one thing that you can finally get some more control over is making doctor's appointments with the help of ZocDoc. ZocDoc is a free app and website where you can search and compare high-quality in-network doctors, choose the right one for your needs, and click to instantly book an appointment. We're talking about in-network appointments with more than 100,000 healthcare providers across every specialty, from mental health to dental health, eye care to skin care, and much more. They make it super easy. You can search by location, availability, and insurance, so you won't feel forced to make any compromises. You can read through reviews from real patients to get a feel for each doctor. And then when you find one you like, you can book them instantly. No need to call and listen to bad hold music while hoping they'll have an availability. Plus, ZocDoc appointments happen fast, typically within just 24 to 72 hours of booking. You can even score same-day appointments. Using ZocDoc has made finding and booking a doctor so much easier for me. So stop putting off those doctor's appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/thetake to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com/thetake. ZocDoc.com/thetake. Blair is, of course, capable of being vicious to anyone, even those closest to her. But underneath the mean shell she uses as armor is a very loyal, caring person. She doesn't always show that side of herself in the best ways, especially since it often presents as an effort to control the people she cares about because she thinks she knows what's best for everyone.
Serena is so grateful because she likes to see the best in people. I like to see the truth.
But she is willing to drop everything for the people she holds dear, and even comes to defend others that she never thought she would see as equals.
For what it's worth, you're my queen. I choose you.
Blair certainly does not always go about being a friend in the best way, but deep down she understands how important it is to have people in your corner.
There's no such thing as too awful between friends. We don't judge, remember?
And how that means you need to be there for them, too. She's able to step out of her Ice Queen role and be a real friend when she can tell one of her friends is really down, and is especially always willing to help find a way to help Serena out of a bad time.
What are you doing this weekend?
Eating leftovers and feeling horrible.
No, you're coming to Paris.
What? I am?
My mom and I are catching the red-eye tonight. If you're gonna be sad, you might as well be sad in Paris.
It's often in the most dramatic, sometimes dangerous moments in her friends' lives that her willingness to be there for them no matter what really shines.
We're sisters. You're my family. What is you is me. There's nothing that you could ever say to make me let go. I love you.
One of the most melodramatic moments of the show's first season was the iconic All About My Brother cliffhanger.
What is it?
I killed someone.
Naturally, one might assume that mean girl Blair would immediately use this information to blackmail Serena and make her life hell. But she instead chooses to stand by her friend and make sure that she knows she's not alone.
You can tell us anything. We don't judge. We're the non-judging breakfast club.
It can be difficult for anyone to own up to being in the wrong, but for an ultra-controlling queen bee like Blair, it can feel nearly impossible. But even with her penchant for bad behavior, she did often manage to come around and realize when she went too far, and was often even willing to apologize. A major source of her growth in this area was learning to be more upfront about what was actually wrong, what she was truly angry about, so that issues could really get resolved instead of just continually escalating.
You knew, Serena. And you didn't even call. Eric told me what happened. I guess your family's been going through a hard time too.
And as she started to become more aware of what was really driving her anger, she became more able to have these more truthful conversations and reach new levels of understanding with the people she cared about, even if she still needed a little push.
What did my text supposedly say?
That you're sorry and you miss me.
Given how often she was unkind to others, she probably never really apologized as much as she should. But the fact that she was willing to at all does separate her from a lot of other on-screen mean queens. Initially, one of the things Blair feared most was change. Her abandonment issues and her constant concern that she would be totally left out of power and become a pariah combined to create a constant undercurrent of fear that any change in her life would only lead to negative consequences. And so, the status quo must be maintained at all costs. But not even Blair Waldorf can stop the natural ebbs and flows of life. Over time, however, she comes to accept that this isn't always a bad thing. Sometimes the things you weren't expecting aren't disastrous, but instead amazing. And sometimes it is worth the risk to find out.
You have to decide what's most important to you. Keeping your pride and getting nothing, or taking a risk and maybe having everything.
Serena was constantly working to get Blair to relax and go with the flow, and shake her out of her inclination to let her fear of change stop her from taking big leaps in life.
I've been waiting all summer to feel sparkly again, and I won't be pulled back into the darkness.
And sometimes things don't work out, and that's okay too. Blair comes to understand the power of accepting change in many of her relationships, like accepting that her mother's new husband, Cyrus, is actually pretty great. She goes from battling Jenny for high school dominance to working with her on a fashion line. Probably her biggest change is opening herself up to a relationship with Lonely Boy himself. Initially, she and Dan were constantly at odds. He saw her as an elitist meanie, and she saw him as a sneaky interloper. But even early on, they found that they actually had more in common than they thought.
Since we have nothing in common and are, in fact, opposites.
The kind of opposites you do not attract.
Most definitely not.
They eventually realized that they shared a lot, from taste in books and movies to having a real drive to go after what they want in a way their other friends didn't. Her time with Dan allowed her to access her more human side and focus on things she cared about outside of her relationships.
Fashion is the most powerful art there is. It's movement, design, and architecture all in one.
And because they weren't constantly in a battle for power within their relationship, she was able to feel a level of security.
And what if I lose everything?
You'll still have me.
Over the course of the show, Blair again and again came to realize that change doesn't have to be the end of the world, and can in fact be the start of a wonderful new one. Unfortunately, Blair didn't get to totally have the arc that she deserved. In the later seasons, a lot of her growth was undone in service of forcing her back into her relationship with Chuck, and keeping her as a more stereotypical mean girl. But even in spite of that, there is a lot of interesting personal evolution and even good to be found in her story. She exemplifies both the dark reality of the elite world, and the fact that there can be a lot more going on with a mean queen bee than meets the eye.
Between being traded for a hotel and selling out for a tiara, I lost my true self. But I want to be found.
She shows us that no matter how much we might want to control everything in the world, letting go can actually be the most rewarding thing of all. But also, there's nothing wrong with bringing out your queen bee side every once in a while.
You know what I just remembered? If you really want something, you don't stop for anyone or anything until you get it.
That's the take. Click here to watch the video we think you'll love, or here to check out a whole playlist of awesome content. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. And make sure to subscribe to our Patreon for exclusive new videos.